Right, before we get into anything tonight, we need to address something properly. Manchester United has just lost twice in one season to teams with 10 men. Not once, twice. And the worrying part isn't the result, it's the pattern. Because the same questions are coming up again. Intensity, decision making, and whether this team is actually improving. Tonight, we're going to break it down properly. No shouting, no excuses. Just what actually went wrong and where the team needs to go next. A few weeks ago, I said something on this channel that I want to come back to tonight. Manchester United had 13 days without a game, not long ago. What was that? 2 games ago? And since that break, the performances haven't improved. They've actually got worse. Now, with my background, you know where I come from with sports science and coaching. It tells us that something really interesting. Max intensity can start to drop after 3 to 5 days without competitive football. So when you've given the players long breaks during the season, where there is always a risk they lose that edge, giving them 5 days off out of that 13 to go do their own thing, even worse. And right now, that is exactly what United looks like, a team missing intensity. We're now got another week off coming up, and this is where the manager has to make a big decision, I think, this time. Do you give the players more rest? Or do you bring them in, rebuild that intensity that clearly wasn't there last night? Because losing to 10 men twice in one season isn't just bad luck, it's a real warning sign. So what I want to hear from you tonight, I put a poll out earlier on X, YouTube and TikTok where I was literally asking you the question, what is the bigger problem right now? A loss of intensity or too much rest? So get in the comments, and I just want a A for a loss of intensity or a B, too much rest. If you're not sure, I'll put it on the ticker at the bottom so you can see it scrolling across which answer is which. Just put A or B and we will come back to that in a minute. Vote in the poll, drop your thoughts in the chat, because in a minute we're going to break it down with the 3 biggest problems from last night's game and where United go from here. So let's have a quick check of the chat before we go any further. We've got Danny in the house. We've got Bilal. Big up, Bilal. Fitness levels need to be better. So there's 8 of you watching right now. Straight off the bat, just put an A or a B. Even if you're just listening on your phone, just if you're on the chat on the TV, I know it can be awkward. Just go down the bottom right-hand corner and use the remote to try and find an A and just put an A or a B. It's going to help the show out big time tonight. All right. So, like I say, just keep going. But there is a lot to get through. I deliberately waited 24 hours. I think it's the best thing to do in this day and age. If we look at what everyone is saying straight after the show, the emotion's too high. We were all upset. And it clouds our judgment. There's obviously the big tweet gone out from Paul Scholes that has now been deleted. I'm not really going to go into that. I think Paul Scholes is an ex-player, but I just want to say he's also a fan. And like all of us, he's allowed to express his frustration. And the media bias being spun on that right now, we're going to ignore on this channel. So let's get on with the first port of call, right? Before we go into the main discussion tonight, let's just frame where the conversation is around the game, because the fan base and across the media, where there are like 3 big themes everyone's talking about today. I would say if you picked up a paper, but let's all be honest, we read it all on our phones these days and every social media site going. The first one's the obvious one. Looking at losing to 10 men again. I can't even, it hurts to say it, the word again. That's the headline everywhere today. The big question being asked is how United can have an extra player and still fail to control the game. The second main point of interest I want to go through tonight is the intensity. A lot of reactions are saying Newcastle, even with 10 players, ran harder, passed harder, and showed more urgency. That's where I said it, I think it was the last review where I said about it looked like walking football at sometimes. You know, I'm always going to have that as a criticism coming from me. If you're not aware, in the UK, we have walking football at 55 years onwards. And when Man United go and move the ball and take about 5 touches per player, they were just getting the ball taken off their foot last night. So we will cover that. Third is the blame debate. And let's be fair, you know, this is a after show call of action, if you like. Everyone has someone to blame, but sometimes we have to go through the reasons why. No one's necessarily right or wrong. They see it in their own. Remember, my channel is about no bias here. So if that's your fault and that's what you saw, I can understand it. But fans are split right now. One side says the players have to take responsibility and simply be better. The other side says Carrick should have changed the game earlier and tactically. And then underneath all of that, you've got the player argument already kicking off. Malacia, Bruno, the lack of service to Sesko. So tonight we're going to break all of that down. The intensity, the tactics, and who actually carries the blame for the result. Because I think that's a big question we need to discuss. We can't answer it, but we certainly need to discuss it. So let's start with the first one, intensity, because if a team with 10 men looks like they want it more than you, that's a serious problem. You don't need to be Manchester United. That could be a Sunday league side. You can't allow at any point a team to want it more than you, or you're in the wrong job. So chat, tell me honestly, did Newcastle just want it more? So why chat gets that in, before we go straight into their answers and what I saw, just a quick one for me, guys. If you like these kind of honest United takes with no agendas, hit the subscribe and join United Lens channel. We're growing fast and it's great having you here. But currently we're getting over 100 views on some, and we're only getting the odd 1 or 2 subscribes. So it's about 75% of you aren't subscribing, but yet the chat's kicking off. You're there in the chat. So please, please, please hit the subscribe. And while you're doing that, I will get on with the show. So we will move back to the first and obvious, losing to 10 men. Right, guys, let's have a quick look, see what the chat was saying, because I need to take a breather before we talk about the 10 men. Training down, Dallo a 0. No width, intensity, like we discussed pre-match. Exactly. I will come on to that. We didn't take our chances. It's one of the main stories of the season, going back to Amorim. Exactly. Right. So, like I said, an A or a B from anyone who is watching right now is going to help me out. We can come back to the poll later on. I haven't put the poll in the chat. I have just realised that. And I've never created a poll so far on YouTube. So that's going to be something new for me. But it is there on X. It's on the community page. Please do not exit and go to community page to do it now. But you can just do it in the chat. You can see it on the ticker. What went wrong? A or B in the chat. Intensity or too much rest. Now, I've spoken about it a few times, but obviously I used to coach. I used to play. I used to do a lot of things. And football hasn't really changed, you know. We talk about our styles of football and everything. The one thing that has happened in football over the last 15 years is the speed of the game. And it seems like every team is speeding up and United's slowing down. And I don't get why, because we had it under Ten Hag, Amorim, you know, probably even at the end of Ollie's reign, and now we've had it under Carrick. We've lost to 10 men under Amarin. We blamed him and his tactics. We've now just lost to 10 men under Carrick, and it's the tactics we want to like and we accept. But what I will say is the intensity wasn't there in either game. The speed of passing to utilise the extra man wasn't there in either game. That's not a coaching style. That's down to the players. That's like almost, how can I say it? The boss is off for the day and we all go a bit slower at work. That's what it feels like when we get to that sometimes. But when the red card came, we got the goal. It's probably one of the luckiest moments we had because I didn't see it come from Casemiro at the front post. It was the only ball that was a decent convertible chance in the first half, and we took it. But that's about the only thing Casemiro had on that night. And we're all aware Casemiro playing 2 games a week is not really going to happen, and hence the reason he got subbed off for Ugarte later on in the game. And we will come on to the subs. Trust me, we will come on to those subs later on. But you're down a man. Okay, you get a goal. You're going back in. You should be on a high. You should be on a buzz. The first half, up until the sending off, was like a basketball match. Everyone was involved. I think we can all agree that. I'm having a look at the chat as it's going. It's back and forth. But what I want to know from chat is, did you see the intensity drop from the sending off, or do you think it was already too low? Because Newcastle were coming at us. We knew what they were going to do. Well, I certainly knew what they were going to do. They literally played the way I said about in the preview, and we didn't exploit it at all. I said about Cunha needed to hold his width. Didn't really happen until he started to get having a bit of an argy-bargy, push and shove with Trippier, and then all of a sudden that drives him to just beat that player. And he had him on toast at times. He got him booked. But Mbeumo looked tired, and we can't just expect that guy to just keep running. And this goes back to the intensity thing. So I don't want to get too coachy with you guys, but Carrick's come in and he said about his training he's shortened the training sessions to say 60 to 90 minutes, made them more intense. Basically, that's nothing new. Okay, first off, that's exactly how Carrick would have trained under Ferguson, and it's how Arsene Wenger was the one who brought it in, so to speak, at Arsenal. They never trained more than 60 minutes. It's the marathon runner scenario where if you're running a marathon, you don't ever train to run the full distance. You train to run like half the distance at the fastest speed, and the rest will carry you through. So with that, when Carrick has shortened these, and we're not playing midweek games, so you have your tactical days, and we're playing every 7 days up until 2 or 3 times this season. Every 3 days that you don't have high intensity, you start to tire. Not physically, but mentally, because you're not being challenged. And it's that challenge that drives players on. So we all know that if we're in Europe, we seem to be lesser in the league last year, but we were up for it in Europe. And it's a choice. The players will make that physical choice, whether they're mentally knowing they're doing it or they just unwillingly do. It's starting to look that way. If you think about the West Ham game, you think about the Everton game, Fulham, and this. The performances have been so below the Man City and Arsenal games. It's like the buzz, the new guy in town has worn off, and it's like, oh, we got to try hard today, guys. We've got to try. Oh, it's okay. It's West Ham. It's Fulham. And that, for me, is one of the most worrying things about football that we can do. So when you get that sort of mentality, it's very hard to get out without dropping them out the team. And we know that with Carrick, at the moment, he's trying to keep all the players happy because he's not there full time. To coin a phrase, he's there for a good time, he's not there for a long time. And it sort of feels like that mentality might be coming back. We tarnished Ollie with that. Oh, he made the players happy again. But eventually it wears off. So, yeah, intensity. You guys aren't really coming back at me. It's almost like we've become numb to it. So, when you have 10 men, believe it or not, we have one extra player. And when we played Newcastle, it was as if that player was on their team, not on ours. So, if it's the way to use the extra player, you literally just constantly move the ball from side to side. And you throw it in the box and you pick up the second balls and you put it back into the box. We seem totally unable to do that. And there's a few reasons why, okay? So I'm going to move on to the sort of the second point, because the intensity isn't just about how fast we move the ball, whether we want it. It's also about player structure and players doing their job. So I'm going to sort of link the second part of the show to the third part, and then we'll discuss a lot more about the players in a bit. How can I put it? The back four was what we pretty much wanted last night. Shaw and Maguire still didn't look well. They didn't look fit enough to play, but they've manned up and they've got on the show. And therefore, we're happy with that. You know, it's showtime, turn up, do your best, and we'll rotate. Midfield-wise, Mainu and Casemiro have been dropping off because they're doing so much more running. If you watched my preview, you would have said the formation for defensive structure needed to change in this game. We need to leave Sesko up top on his own and drop into a solid 4-5-1, because Newcastle have pace. They have a front three that can run for days. Ilanga has got to be the second fastest player in the Premier League behind Mickey van der Ven, I reckon. Gordon's rapid, Murphy, whichever one they wanted to go for in their front line, they would cause us problems. So the only way you could do that was play the back four a little bit deeper, drop Casemiro and Kobe as a double pivot just in front of them, and Bruno needed to play almost just in front of Casemiro, and that. He could not play as a second striker at any point, but he did. Cunha needed to play 10 yards in front of Shaw. He didn't. And Bumo was trying on one side, and at one point I even saw him shouting at players. I think there was one where Bruno tried to sweep the ball out to him, and he's literally having a go at him saying, "I'm back defending, unlike you." You know, you could see the body language. So it's like, you've got to hold on to the ball. We can't just Hollywood it down the wings. You know, so guys, get in the chat now and say to me whether it was formation last night or whether you think it's the players, because I need to see where you're going with this to help maybe explain what I saw. Doesn't mean I'm right, and if you don't think I'm right, call me out. Yeah, there's 10 of you right now, so quickly give it the old thumbs up. Mods, stay on top of that for me. Let's get the likes up on this show, and basically just drop your thoughts in the chat. Boxing is in the house. Good evening, Boxing. Let's see what you've had to say. Lads, it was a bad performance, but we must put it into perspective. It's only one game. Exactly that. And it's about making sure it's only one game. For me, if we beat Villa, the result can just be put down to a bad night at the office. It's as simple as that for him. The big problem was we didn't deal with Tonali. I don't think it was even Tonali. Tenacious Tonali, as I call him, he's one hell of a player. That's why half our fan base are sort of looking at Tonali and Bruno G to come to United for next season. It's never going to happen. It's going to cost us 200 million to sign them both. And everyone's having a say on it. So please, guys, just be aware that's a lot of media spin. But when I'm trying not to talk so much with my hands today, it's the frustration that I'm trying not to let out and just sort of keep it level-headed. If Bruno dropped in and helped, Tonali would have, yes, been further forward, but we could have done a man-marking job on all three of their central midfielders. Man-mark their strikers, two wide, left and right back, one centre-back picks up, and maybe Euro sweep. And then it doesn't really cause us a problem. The out ball would be wide to Bruno and Cunha. They just literally keep the white lines on the soles of their feet. Chalk on the boots, as they used to say when I was a kid. And that would have been the structure. But even through the first half, the camera kept cutting to Carrick and Steve literally just looking at each other and gesturing like as if to say they're not doing what we've told them to do. And we've seen that before. We've seen Amarin turning his back and walking back to the dugout, rubbing his hair, hands on his head. Like, what the hell are they doing? We've seen it from Ten Hag. It was very army gesture. Maybe I'm embracing Ten Hag with a Tez-off training top tonight. Oh, all of that. Like, it can't keep happening. And obviously, the one constant is we've got the same players. So, no matter which side of the fence you sit on, and you've got to let me know whether you think this was on Carrick last night or whether you think this is on the players last night. I think at some point you have to say it is a solid 50-50 and it's on both. Because Carrick can set the team up, he can make subs and he can change things. But those players out there have to show me willing. Now, I did my rating show straight after the game last night and it's as brutally honest as you will get. And that is always going to continue now. So after a live match, within 5, 10, 15 minutes of the game finishing, I'm just going to do a 15, 20-minute player ratings show. At the end of this, if you're watching it on catch-up, you'll be able to see, it'll be linked afterwards in the ending screen. Go back, have a look at the views. You probably see a totally different me in the fact of I'll be a little bit calmer now. Than that, but I gave Bruno our man of the match last night purely because he was created some chances that really we should have scored from. And is that too predictable? So Bruno was hands down, we can all agree. If you don't agree, I would love to hear it. But Bruno was hands down our best player last night and the game before. And most of you will say the only person who can create something. I will put it back at you to hear your take. And, all of you watching on X now, pop on over, put it in the chat or leave a comment on X as well. Is the fact that Bruno is our go-to creator easy to defend against for the away for the team we're playing? Because if I'm a manager playing against Man United, all I'm going to say is, man mark Bruno. One of you, I'm going to put you on Bruno Fernandes. Whenever they get into the final third, they're going to look for Bruno Fernandes. If we can stop him from getting the ball, it'll probably go out to Dallo, who can't cross. It'll probably go out for Cunha, who will cut in on his right foot. Ahmad and Bumo will cut back onto their left foot. We've become very predictable. Bruno is the unpredictability that we need in the team. But we're so predictable that we'll give him the ball in that inside right channel where he will try to cross for Sesko. Now, last night, he put one on the plate for Euro, should have scored. Sesko should have scored. And I believe he had a chance himself. Maybe he should have scored, or was it Cunha? I can't remember. There was one other chance. Oh, it wasn't him. It was Cunha. In the last 30 minutes, he created so many chances. It's very worrying, I think, personally. So let me know what you think. Is Bruno, as much as he's our saviour, is he starting to become a problem that we don't have a plan B? We already know if we lose Bruno, we fall off a cliff. But if he's the only one going to create in this current counter-attack him. He used to do it with Rashford, Martial, Sancho, and ping the balls diagonally into the corners for them to run on. Are we going back there under Carrick? Let's just have a quick look and see what the chat is. Let's catch up with the chat. Where are we? Tonali was getting space too easy. They had for better of the wide areas, in my opinion. Boxing, totally agree, because we did not track the wide areas or defend them. Do you think Ben Jacobs deserves a slap? Ben Jacobs is a great journalist. Transfers is not his thing. He is more finance. He's not tier one finance, but when I've heard Ben Jacobs and what he talks about, he's very elusive. He will never commit to what he says. So I've heard there's conversations, or from what I'm hearing, all of this, it's never a committed sort of, yes, I know this, and he's this close from putting pen to paper. You know, he will never say anything like that. So, you know, Boxing agrees Ben Jacob needs a slap, or maybe just a straightforward jab from New Boxing. I thought Carrick brought Xerxes on into Bruno's central attacking midfielder role and dropped Bruno into the 8 to try and give Bruno space. And it did have an effect, but unfortunately it wasn't enough. Boxing, you're talking, yeah, that's about the last 20 minutes. He did. And it became long ball into the box. And what I said this in my ratings show, guys. And this is why I ummed and ahed about Bruno's rating, because I could see Harry Maguire, Sesko, and someone else all together. And he kept putting the ball out like into the box, 20, 30 yards. And it was more like a hit and hope than guaranteeing where it was going, because it went straight into Ahmad sometimes and out wide. And you're like, why are you crossing towards one of the smallest players on the pitch? Or he'd overhit Harry Maguire so he couldn't head it back across the goal. And then obviously, ideally you want Xerxes, Sesko, Harry Maguire as a front three at that point and just start pinging it in from wide. But again, using the extra man. When you're hitting the ball from just inside their half into the box, that extra man's taken out of the game. You should be progressing it up the pitch. Bruno shouldn't be doing that. If we're just going to smack it into the box, let Le Mans do it, and Bruno can pick it up second balls. And that's where the Carrick criticism would come into. But again, maybe he wasn't told to do that. Boxing Straight Talk, Tyrone, do another Real Talk podcast. And Danny's back in the house. Right. So that's all chat caught up. So, like I said, the intensity would come down to the players as much as it will formation. For me, we got the formation wrong last night. So I think Carrick is to shoulder a lot of this blame. But I believe that some of what I was seeing on the sidelines was not what he wanted. And I don't know how else to put that across. When a manager is, well, you can see his face, and if you haven't seen Carrick's face, I tried to put it on the thumbnail, but it was too zoomed in and just looked really aggressive. But I think he walked to the fans and clapped the fans without even going to the players on the pitch. He shook the hands after the game of all the Newcastle staff, and then he just went down the sideline towards the United fans. And if you were at the game, please let me know if I'm right, because that's what it looked like, and then the camera cut away. But it looked like he wanted clap the fans, get in the changing room. And I believe, and I've read stories, but of course, if you know me, I'm not going to believe what I read unless I hear one of the players come out and go, yeah, actually, he absolutely let us have it. He said the hairdryer wasn't in him in an interview a few weeks back with BBC. I think he may have realised it actually was last night, because losing to 10 men, embarrassing. But for Michael Carrick to go back to where he grew up watching football, grew up playing just down the road from, and obviously family are Newcastle fans, as the ex-Middlesbrough boss, that is one place that guy did not want to lose. And it was, you could see he was raging. If it was Ferguson, he would have had the red nose. We all know about Ferguson when he got angry. He'd try and show one thing, but his nose would glow like Rudolph. So yeah, he was raging, and quite rightly so. And I like that. So that's a plus sign. If you're Carrick in, that is a plus side. We know he needs that. But moving on to Carrick, guys, this one you're going to need to be very interactive with me, because we're going to talk about the substitutions and the players. I've already spoken about Bruno, so like I say, I can see the pros and cons of Bruno last night. And if we had 11 Brunos, we would either have one very passionate side or one all over the running everywhere side, like headless chickens. We never know what we're going to get in that respect. So, yes, we are going to move on to the substitutions. Let me just see what Boxing is saying here. Even in the post-match pressure, you couldn't tell he couldn't think properly due to his anger. Yeah, exactly that. I didn't really want to go into that, but when someone clearly didn't want to be there, he knew the questions he was going to be asked, and he knew he could not give you the answers he wanted to give you. It's so frustrating as a coach. You know, when you want to go around and say, I told him not to do that, and he kept doing it, and that's what happened. He can't say it. He's still got to, like, toe the party line, so to speak. Just remember, the manager also sometimes has to be that, how should we put it? He has to be that politician in that respect. But the other substitutes that came on, Xerxes coming on up top, didn't have a problem with that. I understood it, but we didn't utilise it. You know, Xerxes is tall, Sesko is tall. Let's get the ball wide down the flanks, try and get the corners, use that extra man, move the ball back from left to right, keep probing, get the crosses in. When they head it clear, pick it up, recycle it back out the other side. I make it sound simple, right? Football's a simple game. What we were doing, I have no idea. But Xerxes, I felt for him. I think I gave him a 5 or a 6 last night. I think it was a 6. What more could he have done? Then, obviously, we had Dalot. The less said about that guy, the better. Because we finally were over the moon that Mazraoui was starting in front of Dalot. And I believe, chat, that's what you're probably all going to agree with me here. You were all happy Dalot wasn't starting. And then Luke Shaw has to go off yet again. He didn't look well. And that's what I mean, that him and Maguire turned up and done their job. Maguire's gone off. Heaven's on. I thought Heaven should have started. That's me. But then the Mazraoui incident happened. And Mazraoui goes off. I'm looking at I'm saying Maguire went off. Maguire didn't go off, but I was expecting him to go off. But because of everything that happened, it couldn't. I'm looking at the bench and I see Goodwill Kokonki. Aidan Heaven. All right, he's left-footed. He can come on at left back. Yeah. Malacia. Well, it isn't going to be Malacia, is it? We all know Malacia has barely kicked a ball in the last almost 2 years now, right? Then all of a sudden I realise I know nothing about football. And Mazraoui is going off and Malacia is on. And that, guys, is where the game went wrong, right? Anyone want to say anything different to that? They feel that we went wrong anywhere else? Or the Mazraoui, or Malacia for Mazraoui killed us. It just killed us dead in the water. Now, I have had an ACL reconstruction. And I know for a fact I couldn't come back from it. I know plenty of people have had an ACL reconstruction and they come back fit, strong. And as professional athletes, they've got a hell of a lot more chance. Malacia didn't just have an ACL reconstruction. He had a bodge surgery and then had to have that redone. Now, if my ACL was to go, I can't have the surgery that I've already had. I can't have it twice. And it feels that way about Malacia. He came on. He looked like a non-league footballer playing for Manchester United. He's won the competition and the fans on the pitch. That's the way I saw it. I know this sounds proper harsh because it's not his fault, and it's not. It isn't his fault. But he was so far off the pace that the passing accuracy wasn't there. There's something when you coach about when you're trying to teach combination play and things like that, you have to get the mindset right. And it's about doing number one before you do number two. You have to think although you know 1, 2, 3, and there's steps to what you're doing, pass the ball, run into the space. You've got to make sure you do number one, pass the ball right before you sprint into the space. Because if you pass the ball and sprint at the same time, it's going to be a shit pass. You're going to make the run. They're going to lose it. So it's about consistency. And he hasn't had that. He's not playing in the 21s regularly, which is a joke on Manchester United's coaching. Whether it's in contract or what, I do not know. But guys, what did you think about Malacia? I'm just going to have a quick go over the chat because we know exactly what most of you are going to be saying. Actually, surprised by Xerxes. Should he be introduced earlier? Yeah, I'd have introduced him. I would have introduced Xerxes at half-time because they're down a man. We have the extra player. Do we need the extra player defensively or do we need them in attack because we're going after the game? We said the same about Ruben Amorim against Everton. He didn't put it in attack. So now that's two coaches who have both gone, keep it as it is. Keep it as it is. We'll keep playing our football and we'll get the goal. No. What you have when you have an extra player and you can put him up front. If you put Xerxes and Sesko up against Dan Burn and I call him Thrall, but I don't know how you pronounce his name, but the two centre-backs, you can pin them back. And if you do that, say, in a 4-4-2 or a 3-5-2, you can pin the centre-backs and you can play 9v9. By just literally saying, you two stand just behind the centre-backs. We're going to play wide. When we go wide, you're already goal side, so you can get in the box. You can't be offside. As long as you don't go for the ball that we play wide, you cannot be offside. It keeps the centre-backs pulled back in the match and takes those options out. It also stops them from passing the ball around at the back. So now we know where they're going to go. They've got to go for the fullbacks. And although Dan Burns was playing literally like Roberto Carlos with crossfield balls last night, you can predict the outball. But you also have the +1 in that midfield or in your defence to stop it. We didn't do that. So I 100% agree Xerxes should have come on. Mazraoui, right, boxing. I'm going to disagree with you and agree with you at the same time. Mazraoui on the right in the first half did nothing wrong. He was in the right position for the penalty. Bruno was just clumsy and gave away a stupid penalty. When he got moved to the left, obviously he's right-footed and that changes everything. But he also then doesn't get any help from Cunha. So you will regularly find yourself not necessarily in no man's land, but do I stay or do I go in your head? Thinking about the player on your inside right or the player coming at you with the ball on the left. So it becomes quite hard. And again, he's lacking game time. Mark, surely Heaven could do a job at left back. That's what I was getting at. I thought when Mazraoui went off, Heaven could come on. But Kukonki plays left back for the 21s quite regularly. So he definitely could have, but it would have been a gamble. But with 11 against 10, it's a gamble you can take. And he's young, he's going to have that energy. He is quick as well. Malacia needs to be given away. He can't run. Yeah, Malacia fouled, should have taken a card. Yeah, exactly. Right, so I'm going to come to the goal in a minute with Malacia. I just wanted to see what the chat was saying before I talked about the chat. Talked about the goal. Malacia was so far off the pace, he looked like he had never kicked a ball before. And that's a problem. That's why he needed to play the rest of the season. Once he was back fit, he needed to play the whole season at left back for the 21s. Because that is just a sensible thing to do. Okay? So, yes. Guys, before I talk about the goal, I am looking at stats. I am looking at Danny and Bilal, moderators. Have we got 9 likes on this video yet? Because concurrently, we've had 9 to 15 people watching the show. It don't cost any money to give me a thumbs up. I'm not one of those channels asking for super chats or anything like that. Nowhere near that. But we are on the road to 200 subscribers now. We're into month 4 of this channel. So help me get there. Hit the likes and hit the subscribe, guys. We've just gone up to 10. I want 10. So I'll leave that with you guys. Look, 5 likes, 10 of you. Come on. All you got to do is click out the chat, whack the thumbs up, click back in and have your say. Right, let's get back to the winning goal. First off, I'm going to give Newcastle credit here because I can't remember what the guy's name is. It's something weird. He got the ball. He drove. He took his opportunity. He used Harry Maguire as a shield. Malacia just let him do it. And I'm going to apologise first and foremost. It was the whip on that shot. Now I've watched it back from multiple angles. I was very hard on Lemons last night, and I think that was my emotion. So straight off, I'm going to say, although he did not dive, he could not save it. It went around him with more bend than Roberto Carlos versus France back in '98. Okay, Malacia didn't close down the shot. Now, what worries me is it's the second time I've seen this. Against West Ham, Luke Shaw let the ball bounce and Martinez ran back into the box and never went out wide to close the shot. He stayed within like a certain distance of the other defender. And so it's the second time I've seen it. So I don't know if they're meant to be like taking a natural... Right, you're going to have to put it round me. So as a goalkeeper, if I'm standing here and you can imagine I'm looking straight into the camera. So if I'm faced up with a player, the goalkeeper's going to want me either to the left or to the right. So he knows what side is covered and he'll have to dive. Maguire did that. And that's why I say it was a great shot. Maguire did it. He set it outside. Maguire, no different to Cunha's goal against Arsenal. And the bend is what puts it in the back of the net. But Malacia, well, at first I thought, he hasn't closed him down. And that's not the first time I've seen that this season. I've seen it with multiple runs at us down wide, but we don't necessarily always close it down. We set to block the ball coming across. But if there was one sign that Malacia, in my opinion, should not play for us again, when he turned him and Malacia done the full 360, looking like, where the hell's he gone, sort of thing, he stopped. He went into a jog as if it was a training drill. Like, he's turned me. Right, yeah, reset. I'll go back to my position. Who's next? And I'm sorry, as a coach, as a football player, as a lover of the game, that's unacceptable at any level. I would not accept that when I was playing football with my mates on a Sunday morning, having the fun is still in football. And every week we would we need a left back. Someone's not turned up from the night before. We need someone, they can play left back. I wouldn't accept it from them. There's a lot I don't accept in football. My standards are probably way too high, my brother tells me all the time, but that's me. But Malacia, that's not professional football. That is certainly not a Manchester United player. So, guys, I have one question for all of you, and I need an answer. There's currently 11 of you watching, so come in the chat and just give me the honest truth. Should Malacia ever play for Manchester United again. I just want yes or no. No other chats right now. Just a yes or a no. So let's see what's going on there. So that sort of covers off the lack of service to Sesko. We're saying that week in, week out. The Bruno, the Malacia. So now we've broken all of that down. There is still one sort of little stab that I want us all to come to in the next part of the show, in the final part of the show, where you can have your say about everything. For me, Man United's players, it doesn't matter who the manager is. If Carrick gets the job, I don't see anything changing. Amorim, nothing changed. Ten Hag, nothing changed. If I was to give us Ancelotti, who, if you've watched enough of the shows, you know is my number one choice. I know it's not likely to happen, but we are Manchester United. You go throw the money at Brazil and Ancelotti and say, we'll buy him out his contract and see what happens. I think nothing changes under him. There's too many of these players that just are physically unable to move the ball one or two touch for more than 30 seconds. Like, I know it's fun to have these memes of Bruno, Cunha, Sesko and Bruno. It's great. And from time to time we see that. But why are we not seeing that? Just moving the ball 10 yards. We can see them doing that little one-touch rondo play, which I'm sorry to tell you, most kids can do that at a young age. You put someone in the middle and we can put a triangle or a three and pass it around them. It's not hard. It's not magical. It just looks great. And you know, we love the olays and things like that in football. That's what we all dream for from our team. But guys, we need to be focusing on like Jason Wilcox, Fivell. I was going for Farrell, Fivell, Wilcox, and whoever the next manager is. We are not getting the right kind of player. What we need right now, and next week, because we don't have a game, this is where we were saying about the intensity. I'm going to do a show sort of looking at what we need in the transfer market. Not who, but what. And I will want all of you guys to come watch that, because I need your views, what you're seeing, because it's all right for me to give you an Anderson, or we need a left back. Well, I can't give you Roberto Carlos. I can't give you Marcello, you know, two of the best left backs probably in world football in my time. So Paolo Maldini, people like that. I can't give you, you know, regen Kyle Walker for Manchester United on the right. We can't do that. But what we can do is talk about what those positions need. Because right now, and I've just spotted it in the chat, people saying the same sort of thing. Wilcox has got a lot to answer for. He's the kind of person who should have been saying, Malacia cannot be anywhere near the first team. As director of football, that is his job. We all know the director of football picks the players, the head coach coaches them. So that's on him. I don't trust Wilcox. Do you? Let me know in the comments afterwards. Do you trust Jason Wilcox? I have more faith in Fivell. Oh, see, every time I say Fivell, I give up. I have more cut in the ex-Paris Saint-Germain director of football, who we're not using in that role, than I do Wilcox, who did that role for 30 seconds under Russell Martin at Southampton before we brought him out and then promoted him into that role after letting one of the best in the business go for doing nothing. So we will talk about that more. But right now, I'm coming back to the chat just to see what you guys are saying about what we need going forward. We have a game against Aston Villa, but we have to win. I want you now to tell me what must change. What needs to change from last night to when we play Villa? What does the manager need? What does What do the players need? What do we need? You know, at the end of the day, we got Villa at Old Trafford. We demand so much more. Old Trafford has been a bit more of a fortress recently. You know, it is only one loss. So what are we? 6 games without a loss. We've had one. We go another 6 games without a loss. We're in the Champions League, guys, next season. It's that simple. But out of those 6 games, we got Liverpool again, Chelsea, Villa. But we have to beat. We're in that pack. The draws are available to us because we're in front, so they can't catch if we draw. But it's not about draws, is it? It's about us going out for wins. So, no, Danny's saying no, should have left for a free in Jan. I agree. Carrick should have sold him. Wilcox, you mean, Bilal? Carrick's nothing to do with the transfers yet. That's the sort of the point I'm making. Malacia could not get in a game in League Two, I don't think. Yeah, could Gary Neville not have taken him on loan to his boys, you know? Trevor, better late than never. You've been having a nice early evening snooze, or, you know, 51 minutes into the show, you pop up. Normally there from early doors, but thank you for joining, Trev. You know me, always appreciate it. Hope you hit that like on the way in. Danny likes Diouf at West Ham. I got him it. I like him as a left back. Carrick should have kicked off a fuss. Yeah. Everyone welcoming Trevor. Still should have. Intensity and width. That's the kind of words I'm looking for when we're talking about what we need. Malacia needs to not be taking up a space on the bench for Philomark for a start. Yes, totally agree. Exactly. With Kokonki, if we brought him in, you know, we take Malacia out. One of those youngsters would have given me more effort from the under-16s than what Malacia gave us last night. That's facts. Whether you think it's hard facts or I'm just being, I don't know, grumpy old man. Some people say I am, but, you know, I'm just honest. You know, no different to Roy Keane, Paul Scholes, in my opinion. They just got a hell of a lot more knowledge about Manchester United. But honesty as a footballer, you say what you see. And that was not in an Irish accent before anyone tries to say it was. Trevor, I'm tired. So caught up, guys. So yes, intensity in midfield. We can't have that. Okay, we can't have intensity in our midfield. The only way we can do that, and I'm sorry, this is going to upset people. You know, call it a hot take. The only way we bring back intensity into the midfield, and it's not going to happen, is to switch. I can almost feel like the pressure of me saying it. We switch Bruno Fernandes and Kobe Mainoo. Yep, I said it. Bruno in the 8, Mainoo in the 10. Because Bruno has more legs than Mainoo and Casemiro. So him going up and down between the two logically makes more sense. But I know it's not what would be the best thing for the team. I know that. Okay, some people could say, well, fuck it, let's go 4-4-2 and put Xerxes up front with Sesko. I actually genuinely think that might work. Sesko dropping off as in the 10 role, the old Sheringham role, and linking the play for Sesko. I think they link up well together. But yeah, Danny's saying Kokonki plays left back most of the time for the 21s. But that's an issue, isn't it, Danny? Should Kokonki be playing left back for the 21s? Should that not be Malacia's job? Get him fit. And then Kokonki can step up to the first team, take that role. Malacia goes down, play your games in the 21s for the rest of the season. Because if he's not fit, we can't sell him. He's still going to sit there. Unless he's going to agree to cancel his contract, Malacia will still be here. I think the dinner lady would offer us more from the bench from Malacia. I can see Bruno in the 8 again, Mark. Yeah. Well, that's what he did last night. He dropped him down there, but all he did was hit long balls. So that's one of the trade-off. Just tell Bruno to stay away from our box. Yeah, that's it. Stay in that centre circle. Dictate the centre circle. Kobe stay at the tip of the centre circle. Bruno move around inside of it. Casemiro stay at the back end of it. Drop him with a centre back. And when Martinez is back, he can step past him. So, Mainoo will never bring intensity into the midfield. Oh, all he's got, I think you mean all he's good at is short passing. He turns like a bus. Harsh words. I'm not gonna disagree with all of it. I think he's got a quick turn on him. He's got great feet under pressure, under control. But I've said many a time, he is not a sprinter. He is a player that will give you 90 minutes at one speed. Danny thinks 4-4-2. Exactly. Kokonki can be playing 18s. He's only 17, I think. Yeah, but it's all about progression. So, Danny, it is all about moving them around consistently. But if you're talking about first team football, once you bring someone up, I think it's wrong to take them away. So if we bring Kokonki in, he needs to stay with the team for the next 4 or 5 games. And, can you do something? If not, you can have him in the office and go, right, I really appreciate you coming up. I really appreciate what you got. Right now is not the right time. I'm not going to put you back in the 18s. You're going to go to the 21s, But Malacia is playing in the 21s. Do you think you can take his space? And he's like, yes or no. It's that kind of conversation you have to have as a manager. And you do that with, say, well, I was going to say Binion, but obviously Binion's with us now. But you'd have it with Fletcher. And I'm not sure who's running the 21s. I generally can't think of a name right now because obviously Travis was doing the 21s. And you just that's the way you should progress players through. And unfortunately, I feel like we're not doing that enough again. So, yeah, what's we got here? So Danny agrees 100%. Mark, was Carrick at fault for last night's defeat as much as the players' faults? Well, Trevor, if you turned up for the whole show, you would have these answers by now, Trev. I am going to have to put you in the corner, a bit of time out, bit of homework. You can always go back, watch the rest of the show. But I'll give you the short answer. I have called it as down the middle. Carrick made the subs. He made them too late. Carrick did not change something at half-time to take advantage of the 10 men. So that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin, those players did not work hard to exploit having 10 men. So stop myself from giving yourself a 6-7. That is my hot take on it, Trevor. And I think that's as honest as we can be. Carrick has lost one game, so we can't go on him too much. And he looked fuming like they weren't doing enough. So I think Mbeumo needs to play up front against Villa. Bring Ahmad back in on the right. No, boxing. I'm going to disagree with you here. Sesko should not be dropped. What I want to see against Villa are fast. Again, they have a strong midfield. Villa and Newcastle, when Villa turn up, they're very similar to the Newcastle we had last night. The problem is they've hit a patch of inconsistency, and now we've just given them the drive. Obviously, they got a cup match in between, I believe. Have they not got FA Cup? Are they out the cup? Or are they playing on Saturday? But Mbeumo, I would put over to the left. I'd bring Ahmad back in on the right, and I'd keep Sesko. Cunha needs to take some time out. For me, as good as he is 1v1, he's not offering enough link with the team. And maybe that going back to the bench will bring him back down a step. But I could flip that and say keep him on the left and maybe drop Mbeumo. When was Mbeumo started from the bench? So it is like that. And it's going to be like that for a while. I feel Sesko needs 5-6 games in a row. I think he'd be hard done by if we took him out. Baby in the corner. I must have missed something there. Or maybe that was my dirty dancing. I don't know. No one puts baby in the corner. The guy who was in charge, Adam Lawrence. That's who it is. Yes, thank you. No, you are right, Danny. Trev, Carrick has to take the blame, definitely. But for what he's done so far, we have to give him that one, in my opinion. Yeah, exactly. Look, the guy can't win every single game. If he did, then I'm going up there and handing him a contract, and we would there would be no doubt. But even Pep in his greatest time has lost games. We'll give our Arsenal their credit when it is. They're obviously They were unbeaten for a season, but how often does that actually happen? And let's be fair, didn't they draw something like 12 games that season? So although they won the league unbeaten, there was 12 draws. 100% Cunha out from Danny. Was Dalot dropping justified? Unfortunately, Mazraoui's injured and Malacia coming on was culmination of the winner. Yeah, well, I think Malacia was just justified. Whether Dalot was justified being dropped, I think Mazraoui had done enough to warrant coming in. He'd done, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, cameos, stepped in and at left back, right back. So I think he'd done enough to get himself in. So yeah, what's it? So yeah, that's it. So everyone's in agreement there, guys. It's been a absolutely unreal show. There are 12 of you here right now. Unless anyone's got anything that they really want to, drop your thoughts in the chat. You can see it going across the ticker. What you'll see from my shows, guys, I'm not going to keep being one of those like, subscribe, United Lens or promoting everything. I'm going to use the bar down here, and you're just going to constantly see things going across there. We're all a bit numb to it thanks to Sky Sports through the 2000s and everything, when Sky Sports News really kicked off and the ticker bars. But I want your thoughts in the chat at all times. So what we'll quickly do, we'll have a quick look at the result for tonight. I can see you guys talking about it. Yes, Spurs have lost 3-1 to Palace. Okay, I'll tell you what, we'll end the show about that. It's not United based, but we all love to have a talk. I should probably make a quick apology, because in the preview I said we're all laughing at Liverpool, and let's be fair, Liverpool fans are all laughing at us right now. So probably a bit of karma from myself and my own show. So maybe there's something for me to learn there. But I was just about to say Spursy have done a Spursy, but you guys have already got it. Let's laugh at Spurs. No, let's not. Did Spurs lose? Yes, they did. Yeah, boxing. And Sean, welcome. You had one hell of a show last night, didn't you? I think I saw it this morning. 15k views. Sean has a 3,000 viewership channel, and he's at 15k on a video. So bit of an idol for me at the moment, Sean. Only what I can dream of. I'm on the road to 200. So there's 17 of you here right now. So guys, please hit that likes. This is the best part of the show, where you can all have your own say. Trevor's in, so there's going to be plenty of questions coming. So pop some questions in. Tactical Devils are here. Jarvis, welcome. Everyone, get some questions in. We've spoken enough about last night's game. Let's speak about the future. Let's speak about the Aston Villa game. Obviously, we've got to wait for the preview to come out, and there's going to be some stuff in between, like I said. But we know we need intensity. We know that at least we got some chance that Shaw and Mazraoui can get themselves back fit, so we can have a bit of a stronger defence. Martinez will be back for that, unless we're being lied to. But what are you guys saying in the chat? Have you got anything you got to put out there? We've got first question in from Trevor. Mark, what's your biggest fear? Bloody hell, Trev. What's my biggest fear? Right, we're going to move on to interviewing of the host. Right, my biggest fear. I'm going to sound really big-headed here. So I've never found the fear. I like fear of spiders, heights, anything like that. I don't have any of them. My biggest fear is that the world we live in is never going to improve, and it's only going to get worse. And my fear is that my kids may not enjoy a life that I have through fear of what might happen. That's my biggest fear. It's the only thing that I do genuinely worry about. And you know me, Trev, you ask your questions and I always give you the most honest answer I can, because that's who I am. What else we got in here? Yes, I will be sharing that one out there, Sean. Sean has got a video coming out with an agent. When does that drop, Sean? Can you just let us know when you're actually dropping that, and we'll put it out to the people in here. I know it's not many, but I'm sure you'll take all 14 views off me right now, and anyone who watches afterwards. Trevor's biggest fear is Stu in the Mankini. If you're not sure, Stu is a host over on Tactical Devils with Jarvis, and anyone in the Mankini is maybe a fear that I haven't come across before. You guys, Mark, which 3 positions do you need to strengthen first, in your opinion, with these players? Okay, so with the team we have, I can easily say the 3 positions we need to strengthen are both pivots in midfield and a left back. I think last night showed that with Mazraoui and Dalot, we could cope. We could cope. It wouldn't be ideal at right back. Midfield is key. You know, there's no getting away from that. If you're giving me three pit players I have to change, 2 of them are midfielders. We're half expecting Luke Shaw to be injured next season because he's been fit this season. So for me, the left back we have to get someone in, because we're not giving that opportunity to Kokonki, and obviously, like we just said about 20 minutes ago, Mazraoui, Malacia cannot play for this club again, in my opinion, unless he goes to the 21s and plays every single game for the rest of the season and has a good pre-season and gets everything back that he showed potential. You've got to remember, he's a player who came in with high potential, and at no point has he shown it at the club, not through fault of his own, but through injury. So yeah, for me, it is the double pivot, because I as much as I like Kobe Mainu, he's a 10 in my eyes, and we need someone who can be a box to box and a destroyer. Okay, Jarvis has got one. What shapes a person more, nature or nurture? Well, I'm going to say nurture. I'm not going to give it too much thought. I am going to say nurture, but to nurture someone is to also criticize them. So I can only give my opinion of this take. The nature nurture is normally in our brain, we take it from our own children. So I'm going to use my youngest son. So whenever he plays football, we always had a debrief on the way home, so to speak, if you like. And he would say he'd want to know what he did wrong, because he's a goalkeeper, and every time the ball goes in the net, you've made a mistake, right? That's his mindset, and I never had a problem with that. But we would always, so from a nurturing point, I'm like, mate, it don't matter. Look at your age. You could have done this. You could have done that. Maybe, you could have come out. Could you have talked to your defenders more? All of that. But you always finish on a positive. And what I find in the world we live in now, when it comes to the nature-nurture argument, it's like you can't have both. You have to pick a side, and you can't be negative towards people. But without that criticism, then that negativity, you will never know what it's like to fail. And you will not have as much drive to succeed. So I hope that explains that one for you, Jarvis. Which currently injured player have we missed the most? I'm actually surprised. I think most of us are going to say the same answer here, Sean. And I'm going to say Dorgu. Dorgu was literally coming into his own. It still is he is the only player we can play on the left. He's the only player I will trust to stay left. So yeah, Dorgu. I probably, if you'd asked me that question before Christmas, I would never imagine myself saying that. I think we've missed Dorgu more than we're missing Martinez personally right now. Has anyone ever called you what that lag got called by Jack Fletcher? No comment, but I've been called many a thing and a hell of a lot worse. Never rated Malacia even when he was fit. Ten Hag's talent identification was garbage. But was it entirely his talent identification? He's judging them against a poor league, and that was a league he knew. It was our structure that should have had more of a say against him. So yes, although he can be bad, a bit like this nature-nurture thing, he needs to be held responsible for his actions. Exactly. Sometimes tough love is nature. I like that. Is nurture. Oh, I hate those words. 10 bags, new home spend. Right, let's have a look. Mark's debrief on the way home is him running red lights while pulling out the tactical board to his son. No, we always used to get the train. So I don't actually drive. Mrs. drives. I've got 4 kids, 2 stepkids. Never had time. One of us drove. I always put it on thing. I've always used my legs to get me from A to B, and I can jump on the train. Just who I am. For me to go from home to work, it's about a 5k walk. You know, it's only about 30 minutes for me. 5k back. Happy days. I'm getting my steps in and getting my exercise. When you stop playing, guys, you've got to take the exercise where you can get it. I do have provisional. I do jump in the car and I can drive it. And I am more worried that when I do finally decide to take my test and do it, that I start piling on the pounds and stop walking everywhere, right? Because it becomes easy. It's just who I am. I'm not a massive fan of cycling bikes because of the roads in the UK. Literally, I've got a road bike, and the amount of oval-shaped tyres I've ended up with, it's ridiculous. Dorgu by a mile, injured person. Do you agree with Rooney's criticism of Paul Scholes? Jarvis, I mentioned this right at the beginning of tonight's show. No, I do not agree with it. I have not seen the criticism itself from Rooney. So I don't want to say that it hasn't been taken out of context or anything like that. What I have said, and you've seen it in our chat when I was talking to Johnny, that Paul Scholes is now purely just a fan. He's a Manchester United fan, born and bred. I know he's old. He grew up as an Oldham fan, but he's been through the academy. And it's a bit like if Brighton weren't in the Premier League. I grew up watching Brighton week in, week out, down on the South Coast. But then they were struggling to stay in the Football League when I was watching them, you know. And he's in the same boat with Oldham. When it comes to Paul Scholes has got, probably like myself, there's a very dark side to Paul Scholes, and he has to deal with a lot of things. I do myself. And I see it as he just calls it as it is. I interpreted his words as, look, guys, he's now fucked up. Are we going to call out his fuck up, or are we going to instantly just be like, no, give him the job, Carrick at the wheel, you know, Carrick, you know, all of that. So I don't disagree with it. I thought Wayne Rooney, from what I've seen, Wayne Rooney seems to need to rein it in a bit. Because at the end of the day, he is now he's got his own podcast and he's doing everything for clicks. And it's starting to look that way. I don't mind when someone just clearly says something and says it how it is. Michael Carrick is a very, very close friend of Paul Scholes, of Wayne Rooney. Not as close a friend as Paul Scholes. Although they played together, different ends of their career. Rooney pretty much played his entire United career with Carrick. So you can imagine how close they are. That's all. I do drive the missus up the wall there, Trevor. Do you tell your missus to shut up and drive? Whenever I was to ever say shut up to my missus, I'd probably end up with a black eye. So, no, I do not. Scholes. drinking and social media don't mix. Exactly that, you know. We've all been there, Sean, haven't we? And I don't think Wayne Rooney's one to throw stones in a glass house, because you may or may not be aware, 15 of you watching right now, mods, let me know how many likes there are, and keep on top of that. But Wayne Rooney is no longer on X. He took himself away from it because the amount of times he's put stupid things on there when he's had a drink about Manchester United. And right now, with what came out about, what was it, the Brits, again, I'd probably be trying to keep a low profile and not saying anything about anyone. So, yeah, that's my take. You know, see, and that's just an honest take from me. And when I read what Paul Scholes says, it's an honest take. When I hear what or read anything Roy Keane says, it's an honest take. They're allowed to be honest. You know, I don't buy into this, and it's sort of where me and Johnny Boy were having a bit of a sort of discussion, and it was a discussion. There was no malice or heat debate or anything like that. It was, I believe that once a player has left, stopped playing football, they're just a fan. We can't hold them to say, yeah, but they're a United legend. They got to toe the United line. No, they don't. They see football how they see football. Oval shaped tyres from hitting pedestrians, I would say, Mark. Yeah, pedestrians and the potholes. Question mark. What is your biggest conspiracy theory? I'm generally interested. Starring that one, I'll come back to that one. That will take up the end of the show, Trev. That'll be my final one for the show. What Rooney said. I'm not reading it out boxing because I'm not 100% sure it's legit. Because Paul Scholes, apparently Wayne Rooney commented on Paul Scholes' post on Instagram, but it has been deleted before Paul Scholes was on the overlap this morning. Well, although it was filmed yesterday or Tuesday, it's obviously been deleted before that came out, probably by Gary Neville's instructions. When he was off with 2 birds recently drunken as a skunk. Yeah, there you go. 9 likes, guys. 9 likes. There's 14. Can we get another 5 out of you guys? Thank you, Trevor. Moon landing was fake. It was directed by Stanley Kubrick. I am telling you, wouldn't surprise me. There you go. So I'm not going to read it, but if you're in the video, you can see it. Like I say, it did not have speech marks. It was written without speech marks, and I did not see it as a comment with Wayne Rooney's Instagram post. It's someone reposting it as the words Rooney said. So I have not seen it. Until I do, I won't comment on it. Just landing the players, and that's the second part. Okay. So I didn't really want to go, wow, Rooney has really gone in on him, Jarvis. But boxing, that's the point I'm trying to make. It's such a strong comment. It's actually out of context of Wayne Rooney. So I'm a little bit there. Scholes and Butt, to an extent, love the sound of their own voices, as with Leach or recently, also with Scholes. And you can take them. I take what everyone says with a pinch of salt, right? Because it's all about our eyes. I just realised I'm not looking at you guys because I'm reading all these comments, and you know I really, really bloody appreciate these comments. So everyone, just please keep getting them in. But we're literally coming up to the end now. It's not comfy, but it's apparently he said it. Yeah, exactly. But you know, 2001: Space Odyssey was made the year before the moon landing. Look how accurate it is. Right, well, I'm going to go. So the last one, I'm going to make this the last question. Trevor's question. I'm sure I've answered this to you before, Trevor. You know, so I am massively not into conspiracy theories as Trevor likes to think, but I am into ancient history, and all is not what it seems. So for me, my biggest conspiracy theory is that there is a lost civilization or a lost history that we don't know about. There is enough proof out there to say or question what we know from textbooks as kids. And there seems to be a mass narrative driving that. Okay, it's just something I've always been fascinated by. Probably growing up, Egyptians, Norse mythology. I can remember doing it when I was 11, 12, 13, something like that sort of age at school. And then the X-Files came out, and Jesus Christ, X-Files just blew everyone's minds. And I just kept going. I would have loved to have been an archaeologist, but, apparently that requires GCSEs, O-levels and everything like that. And although I got my GCSEs, I went to work and I played football. So I gave up on schoolwork. So maybe there's a missed opening there, but one of my stepdaughters is really interested in it now. So, yeah, I think that I'll give you my hot take. In every religion and every ancient civilization that has been documented, there are talks of a giant flood, no different to what we have all been raised in schools learning Noah's Ark. But there are plenty of stories of stuff before this flood, but there is nothing to prove that civilization was there. And it's like it just upped and started in Egypt, and that's all we know. But there are the Emerald Tablets, ancient Sumeria, things below water lines which would predate the Younger Dryas. Oh God, I'm getting all technical to you. But basically, when the meteor hit, started the Ice Age, there's still buildings that are below ice. So how could that have happened? Trevor, you get me going off on tangent, but I hope that answers your question, at least one way or another. Tell us a dad joke. I am crap at jokes. I cannot do dad jokes. You probably did, Mark, but I am telling a dad joke. I agree, Mark, into all that stuff too. Mark, great subject to be interested in. Sounds fascinating. My conspiracy feeling is we are aliens on this planet. Boxing, if you think that we're aliens on this planet, if you ever want to, I don't know, get an audio book or anything like that and find the story of the Emerald Tablets and the epics of Gilgamesh and things like that, you'd probably find that quite interesting, because that might go hand in hand with your conspiracy right there. Mark, do you think Joe Rogan's podcast? I do listen to Joe Rogan, not all the time, but when he has the guests on that I am interested in, 100%. Joe Rogan is an honest guy, and someone who actually inspires me to how this channel could be, about that honesty and just having open and frank conversation. Is there more than one flood to Mark? Yes. There's definitely enough to show us multiple floods, especially in Northern America, with the ice things. But I'm not going to go into all of that. That it would be really hard to explain. But basically, there's been multiple floods, impacts, and it tilted the axis of the Earth. For those who aren't aware, the Sahara Desert used to be a rainforest. We all know Antarctica has land underneath it, and there's such a thing called the Perry Reese map that shows all this. Stop asking me these questions. I have answers, but I can't just always go into them. Boxing, have you phoned home yet? Are we the same person throughout our lives? Jarvis, I feel that's a loaded question because I know you're Norwegian. Potentially not. There is enough talk in ancient civilization, especially in Norse mythology and actually South American history, where there is talk of our souls going somewhere else, and there is also some weird and wonderful stuff. I can't remember what it is, but one of them talks about the moon collecting our souls and sending them back to Earth. That is proper out there stuff. That's not necessarily something I believe in, but with every story, it came from some truth that has been elaborated on. But I would be more put that back on you. And do you believe in Asgard and all the Viking folklores? And the Leviathan. Noah's Ark is apparently in Turkey. They thought they found it up the top of Mount Ararat, but unproven. Can't afford. God, guys, you're going mental. I'm trying to keep up. Face Emerald tablets, great stuff on YouTube too. Yes, Danny. So you're definitely into the same stuff. You all know about Faith. Faith is also meant to be Osiris in Egyptian culture, and some people say it is Quetzalcoatl, if I pronounce it right. I might have butchered it in South American history. Mark 8, you a flat earther. No, I'm bloody not a flat earther. I'll look into that, Mark. Wow, it's fun being on the other side for once, putting Mark on the spot. I don't get asked half the questions when I'm on your show, Jarvis. There's too many of us. Jarvis is going deep with the question. He's usually pleads the fifth. Exactly. Conspiracy theory, Haaland is a robot. Hey, maybe Haaland's just some kind of clone, more than a robot. JFK was killed by the CIA. Well, I am not going to comment on that. I feel by lack of this that maybe Sean has gone. I was going to ask. I would have pushed that one back towards Sean, but JFK has definitely got more to it than the FBI would have ever let out. Love the Titan Commune story. There you go. You understand it. Yeah, that's definite. Right, guys, I'm going to have to call it there. I've been going an hour and a half. Viewership, comments, likes, all of that. On your way out. No, Trevor. Right, before we do anything, you can read that on screen. I'm not even going to say his name. We are not going anywhere near him. Okay? He is in the category as a certain former left forward or right forward of Manchester United playing in France, okay? That guy does not get spoken about, and nor does a rapper, and nor does a footballer. So we'll stay away from that one. I'll talk about it on Tactical Devils if Jarvis allows it. Yeah, exactly. I really appreciate tonight, guys. I'm going back over it now. I've just had to cover that off. On the way out, please, if you can hit a like, leave a comment. If there's anything you feel that I haven't covered, if you think I was too harsh, leave it. Get in the comments, leave that. Hit a like, hit a subscribe. There's plenty of you here. As I said at the start, there's 75% of you aren't hitting subscribe. We're on the road to 200. I can't do it without you. So, if you like the honest opinion I give, maybe you just like this weird and wonderful stuff I've got at the end of the show. I don't know. But if you do like my honest takes, it does come from a coaching background. It does come from a playing background. And all you ever will get with me is honesty. I don't do media bias. I will look at tactics from both sides of the fence. And if you enjoy that, thank you very much. But like I say, on the way out, guys, slam a subscribe, hit the like, and I will catch you, midweek for a weird and wonderful show, I'm guessing, because we don't play for a few weeks now. So take care, and I'll see you all soon.